Welcome to the debate. Please take a quick moment to like, subscribe, follow, and, turn on that notification bell.
Yeah, definitely do that.
So before we dive in, we actually have a crucial update on the Martin Stevens versus OpenAI situation.
Right.
To be completely clear here, this is not a lawsuit yet. There is currently a voluntary quiet period in effect at Martin's request, basically to pause the release of public information.
Which is a pretty big deal.
It is. Also, the dead man switch, which is an automated security protocol designed to release sensitive data if Martin fails to check in, is inactive right now.
Okay, so he's safe.
Exactly. He remains physically and legally safe. And I really want to strongly emphasize this. We absolutely do not know if any settlement discussions are actually underway between the parties.
Right, so we have no idea. But the reason we are mentioning that massive, multi-million-dollar dispute right now is because, well, it famously started over a simple $20 issue.
A $20 issue, yeah.
And today, we are watching an almost identical escalation tactic play out with another tech giant. It raises this fascinating question. What happens when a consumer weaponizes a company's own AI to draft legal arguments against its creators?
I mean, that is exactly what's happening. Martin's is now in a dispute with Google over a Google One refund.
Right.
For context, this started because of a service failure with Notebook LM. Specifically, it was the audio overview feature, the one that turns documents into AI-generated podcasts.
Yeah, and when that glitched out, he asked for a refund on his entire Google One subscription.
Right, which brings us to our core question today. When a company issues a refund to compensate for a technical failure, does immediately revoking the user's access constitute an illegal, punitive practice under consumer law, or is it simply a standard, logical contract termination?
Well, I look at this and see a situation where Martin's legal framework, which was ironically formulated by Google's own AI, Gemini, correctly exposes how rigid, system-driven policies violate federal consumer protection laws.
Well, I come at it from a totally different way. I mean, Google's policy here is just a standard, logically sound, mechanical execution of a courtesy refund for an explicitly non-refundable service, not some deceptive or illegal corporate conspiracy.
Let's unpack the mechanics of what actually happens here. Martin requests a refund because Notebook LM fails.
Right, the failure. The Google support rep, Czar, grants it as a courtesy. But the moment that refund processes, Martin loses his extended cloud storage.
And his ability to send or receive Gmail.
Exactly. He's digitally stranded. Martin utilized Gemini to point out that under Section 5 of the FTC Act, this qualifies as an unfair or deceptive act or practice, UDAP.
Okay, but why?
Because it forces a user into a punitive limbo. They don't have their money yet due to banking processing times, and they've instantly lost the digital access they originally paid for. It punishes the consumer for a merchant-side error.
I'm sorry, but I just don't buy that framing. I really don't. We have to look at the terms of service governing the exchange.
But terms of service don't override the law.
Google One subscriptions are explicitly non-refundable, though. Czar clearly stated in the email that they were granting a one-time courtesy exception.
Right, a courtesy.
Think about the underlying logic of a digital contract here. If a transaction is financially voided at your request, you cannot logically possess the benefits of that contract.
So you just lose everything?
Reversing the transaction automatically severs the access. And regarding that AI legal framework, Gemini generated its output, and I quote, per the user's explicit request.
Right.
The AI was acting as a compliant writing assistant, fulfilling a prompt, not an objective legal arbiter validating his claims.
I see why you focus on the contract. I do. But let me give you a different perspective on how this ecosystem lock-in actually operates. Martin describes this as an illegal refund loop.
A refund loop?
Yeah. If a restaurant serves you a severely burnt meal and the manager agrees to comp the dish, they don't immediately snatch the glass of water off your table and physically escort you to the street.
Well, that's a bit dramatic.
But it's accurate. Reimbursing a customer for a failure shouldn't trigger an immediate eviction from the entire digital ecosystem, especially something as foundational to modern life as email access.
The restaurant analogy is vivid, sure, but it implies active human retaliation, like a manager aggressively kicking you out.
Which is essentially what the system does.
No, that is not what is happening here. Czar's email explicitly notes that once a refund is processed, the associated benefits are automatically removed because the process is entirely system-driven.
Right, system-driven.
It's a database recognizing that a digital license is no longer attached to a valid payment. It's basic automated accounting, not an intentional retaliatory strike against a complaining consumer.
But saying, the computer did it doesn't absolve the corporation of its legal duty to consumers. Gemini's analysis drew a really interesting parallel to the Fair Credit Billing Act, or the FCBA.
Right, the credit card law.
Exactly. Normally, the FCBA protects consumers from retaliation, like a bank closing your account, while you are resolving a credit card billing dispute. Gemini applied that logic to cloud storage.
Which is a big leap.
It argued that hitting a consumer with a coercive data lockout during the resolution of a service error operates as a legal leverage. A system-driven limitation doesn't give you a pass to treat consumers unfairly.
That's a compelling argument, but have you considered the nature of the error itself? The original Notebook LM failure wasn't a fundamental breach of the entire Google One storage contract.
It was a major feature failure, though.
It was a known active outage of one specific feature the engineering teams were actively investigating. And having an AI creatively map credit card statutes onto a digital cloud storage dispute is far from a court finding those statutes applicable to this specific terms of service.
You can question the legal weight of the AI's output, but we can't ignore the brilliance of the structural shift happening here. Martin explicitly told Google support, "Your system is not loyal to you and can legally be weaponized against you. It has access to the law."
Right. That quote is wild.
We are watching a consumer leverage a company's own billion-dollar language model to draft sophisticated legal demands against its creators.
The tactic is undeniably clever, I'll give you that. Turning the machine against its creator makes for great theater.
It really does.
But we have to be careful. Martin is issuing aggressive ultimatums, threatening class action lawsuits over a minor, occasional Notebook LM glitch.
Well, it's about the principle.
Elevating a temporary software hiccup into a federal consumer rights ultimatum risks undermining the credibility of the very real conversations we actually need to have about digital property rights.
That brings us to where our perspectives ultimately diverge, I think. For me, this dispute perfectly illustrates that internal software limitations simply cannot excuse unfair practices.
Right.
A company cannot financially strand a user and simultaneously lock them out of their data under the guise of an automated, system-driven process.
And I maintain that a courtesy refund inherently and reasonably terminates the associated digital benefits. When you ask to void a transaction, the logical endpoint is just the removal of the service.
Regardless of where one stands on the refund loop itself, I think we both share a deep fascination with this modern phenomenon.
Oh, absolutely.
Weaponizing a company's own AI to meticulously formulate consumer protection arguments is an incredible evolution in advocacy.
It is. The intersection of AI, consumer rights, and corporate liability is a rapidly expanding frontier. There's so much more to explore in these source materials. And, we'll leave it to the listener to decide which interpretation of consumer law holds more weight here.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and share to support our work. As these tech ecosystems grow larger and more integrated into our daily lives, we have to ask ourselves, are we paying patrons protected by the law, or are we just one system glitch away from having the water glass snatched from our hands?